Welcome back to It's So Friday. We've been away for a few weeks. Everyone's been getting colds around here. This winter is just, it's almost warm again, and so we're ready to be done with sickness and daylight savings to come back and have long sunny afternoons here in California. The other thing that we're all eagerly watching here around the office is April the Giraffe. I don't know if any of you guys are watching April the Giraffe. If you aren't, you should probably check it out. A quick Google search will tell you all about April. She's expecting her little baby any day now. And so we actually, I have a monitor just outside my view with April the Giraffe up so I can see what's going on and just know if she's going to have that baby today. But if she doesn't have it today, there's 2 days of weekends where we're probably not going to be tuned in for 8 hours a day. So, I don't know, I'm just hoping maybe by Monday, fingers crossed. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about why you all tuned in here for quilting and fun. Today we are going to talk about the Easy as ABC Quilt by Darlene Zimmerman. It's a free pattern available on the Robert Kaufman website. You can get to it by the link in this post or by going onto the Robert Kaufman website and searching for Easy as ABC. You can actually see the quilt behind me here. It's really beautiful. It looks super complex, but it's actually so simple that a very, very beginner quilter could do it. And it's fast and fun because it is pre-cut friendly. It uses a roll-up, sound effects, and a panel. Like on the bottom here. I can't take it out because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see this beautiful fat quarter bundle. So this new collection by Darlene Zimmerman is shipping to your shops now. It features 21 fabrics including a panel. There's 6 different designs and they are really great. I have a stack of them over here I can show you. So a lot of the blenders that we know and love in these 30s groups. This is more primary, but it's just so stinking cute. Plus an alphabet panel, and who doesn't love an alphabet panel? We love alphabet panels. I love alphabet panels. They're one of my favorite things to buy and store and hoard and use sparingly in precious quilt labels. And look at this beautiful assortment of this really cute, I just like it, little dots and lines. And this little letter one, it's so cute. I actually should get a whole bunch of this one because I like that blue a lot. And this cute little school print fabric. Now, when you open the fat quarter bundle, you will also see the panel, and I've actually cut my panel up for this project, so I don't have one to show. But all of the letters are spelled out: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z, plus 2 cute little designs that are going vertical. And what you'll notice is that there's just about a ½ an inch, well, it's like exactly a ½ an inch between these 2 designs. So when you're cutting, make sure that you're really, really careful that you're not just cutting along a line. You want to make sure that you're using this space in between the letters as your seam allowance. So the first thing that I did when I was cutting out the pieces for our project that we're going to work on today was cut along exactly on the ½ inch between the 2 line. And then I went and scored them down to the size that you actually need for the project. That way you're sure you don't accidentally cut off seam allowances and everyone goes home happy. So on Darlene's quilt, when you download it from the website, you'll see that she used the full alphabet just all in a row. It's really, really cute. Great for any babies that are learning how to do their letters and spell things. But sometimes it's also fun to take alphabet panels and just go crazy and write your own messages with them. And so we decided that that was what we were going to do today because everyone needed to remember that it's So Friday. So we spelled out Friday. It's been a long week. Friday. Anyway. So on top of that, we're going to go ahead and on camera, we're going to sew up sew. Now the beauty of a roll-up project is that the cutting time is drastically reduced because a lot of the cutting has already been done for you, which is why it's called a pre-cut. I'm going to just move these a little bit because they're cuter over here. Okay, so the first thing that I did was read the directions. I read the directions all the way through, and so should you. It's important to read the directions. When you don't read the directions, sometimes you cut things wrong. I I read the directions wrong a lot. So I was really careful. I read the directions, I measured and everything, and then I circled the ones that I actually needed to make the blocks we were doing today. So I know that I did the cutting correctly. So for the blocks, the main blocks, what you need is you need 2 pieces that are 2.5 inches, the width of a roll-up, by 6 3/4, which is this long one. 2 that are 2.5 by 4 3/4, which is this vertical one, and you needed 4 2.5 inch squares, which is this little 2.5 inch square. So from each of my roll-up strips, and remember, if you're making full quilt, you should read the directions and count out differently, because I cut out just what I needed for this project. I laid out my roll-up strip, and then I cut off the ends, which are the selvage ends, and then I cut 6 3/4, 4 3/4, 2 2.5s, and then I had this little tail that I didn't need because I wasn't keeping it, so that became trash. Threw that right away. And so what I did then was I did this with all of the pieces that I wanted to use, and I laid them all out in little piles of keeping the bars together and the squares all together, because some of them are cornerstones and some of them are the sides, and so you don't want to mix them all together or you'll just have a mess. And after I cut out my letters, I wanted to kind of have some control over which fabrics were touching, so I didn't accidentally put like 2 reds together and just have your eye drawn right to that big clump of red. So we laid out the letters. Let's do this the right way. S-E-W, so Friday. And then paired with them which borders we wanted on each one. And let's see, I think that'll go well there. And then what cornerstones we thought would go nicely with each one. No, that won't work. That would look great. Now this is so that I know that when I lay them up next to each other, I'm not going to have too much that's exactly the same. And you can kind of see it doesn't really matter in the long run, but I accidentally put 2 that are the same or very close to each other there, so it looks like it's a bigger piece than it is. And it's not, again, a problem, but you know, sometimes it's nice to have some diversity in your fabrics mix there. So once you have this all laid out, this is a really, really great project for chain piecing. And again, it's great for beginners because after you've done all your cutting, it's just straight seams and it's really simple. So what I'm doing is I start with deciding which of the either the long or the short side I'm going to attach to the main block first, and then the other whichever one I'm going to put that on both sides of the block, and then take the other one and add the cornerstones to each side of that. Then I'll have like a 9-patch block to put together. So that sounds confusing, but I'll just do it and it's not that bad, I promise. So with right sides together, I'm going to take the long piece and line it up with the long edge of my letter block, and then using a 1/4 inch seam, I'm just going to sew. And you can start and stop a little bit at the beginnings and ends of your seams if you want, and this would just keep it from coming apart. So you can see I've attached this long piece here. I was going to chain piece that, I forgot, so I'll chain piece these. Now, not using the other long piece because you don't want to make your life really difficult, using the short side piece. Right sides together on the 2.5 inch seam, and sew. And of course, if you have any questions or just want to like chat about the weather, if you have feedback on when you think April the giraffe is going to have her baby, you feel free to comment, and Yael behind the camera is going to ask me those questions, and sometimes I might be able to answer them. I don't know when April the giraffe is going to have her baby though. I wish I knew. So I chain piece these together, and you could see chain piecing is just when you've sewn without cutting your seam in between, so you have like a chain. Normally you have like a whole bunch on a chain, not just 2, and it's a little bit more impressive, but this works. And I'm just going to iron real quick. I'm using our Flatter by Soak Wash, which is a spray starch alternative, and it just helps keep the blocks really flat and lovely. And I didn't actually snip the thread between those when I ironed them. I can snip it now. And I'm going to attach right sides together to the opposite side of the bar, the little cornerstone piece. corner unit, maybe not a cornerstone, but you get the idea. And I'm also, before I snip my threads, going to attach the other long side to the long side of the alphabet block with your right sides together. Okay, so to get your seams to nest really nicely, I guess you could pin, but I don't like to pin that much if I can avoid it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to nest my seams. So with these, I want to press so that the middle piece has the seams going out like this. And I'm going to do that with both of them.
Can you tell us about your iron? Someone's asking about it.
Oh, sure. This is an Aliso iron. So it's a smart iron. When I'm holding it, the sensors acknowledge from the top that it's being held and the feet go in. And when I let go, the feet come back out. So it stands back up after I iron. It's really great if you have like arthritis or anything in your wrist where the repetitive motion of lifting an iron starts to kind of get to you, even if you don't really realize how heavy an iron is. This is really smart and touch sensitive, and it just makes it really easy to iron. Now the only problem with it is that sometimes you forget that other irons don't do that. Can't forget that. All right, so since you've ironed your seams with the bar flat this way, when you look at how you want your seams to nest this way, you're going to have to make these ones also, like you want these seams to fold in towards the alphabet letter. So I'm going to just lay it down, spray it, and then press my seams in that direction. And then I like to just turn it over and just make sure that I didn't accidentally like have like a weird bubble or anything in there, and I just iron that again. And now I have the center block with two side pieces that are ready to be assembled, and it goes together just like a 9-patch. So at this point, if you wanted to pin, you could pin right where those seams are hitting, or you could just go for it. I'm just gonna go for it. If you're brand new to quilting, it does help to pin because it gives you a little bit more control. You know that nothing's shifting around. But some people just don't like pinning.
Do you know any of those people, Elizabeth?
I know one of those people. I have a friend who only uses Wonder Clip. She doesn't pin at all, ever. So if she wants to keep a seam together, she'll put a little clip there. And they actually make like really tiny Wonder Clips now, that she was very excited when she saw those, because she said, oh, now I can use these little itty bitty ones for holding pieces together. All right, so now that you've sewn your two edges together, you have this little block, which is really exciting, and you just have to iron that so that it stays nice and crisp. And I'm just going to, at this point, I don't care which direction I iron my seams, I just want to be consistent. You could press your seams open on all of these if you wanted to. It's totally a matter of preference. And look at that, S is for sand pile. There, yeah. All right, now we're going to repeat that process with the other two. So once you have this kind of down, you can actually chain piece multiple blocks together at the same time, but you just want to make sure that you're not accidentally mixing up your you know, what you've picked for each letter and accidentally, you know, adding one of these bars to one of the other quilts, unless you really wanted the scrappy look, because otherwise it's just not going to look exactly like you imagined. So the way that I like to make sure that I'm not mixing them up is I also chain piece one of the long letter blocks and the bars together, so that I know, oh yeah, that green went with that letter. Then it makes it a little bit easier for me. If you're doing a big full quilt though, you might need to be careful, because you would have duplicates of it and you wouldn't want to accidentally mix them up. Some people have like little letters and things too that they attach. I don't really know how that works because I've never done it, but it says like this is pile A, it goes with pile A, and you know that's pile A. So now I have these extras from my chain piecing. So I have my letter block and then the two sidebars. So I'm just going to set these right on top of my machine and move on to the next block, where I will do the exact same thing. Oh, this is W. W's for wagon. It's cute. Okay.
Karen's says Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I'm so happy it's Friday. I have big plans to sleep this weekend, just like nap the whole weekend. And maybe sew a little bit. And maybe knit. And watch the Great British Baking Show. I don't cook at all, but I can watch that baking show like it's nobody's business. Okay. And here we go with our little chain piecing. Alright, so I'm going to put my extra pieces again on the top in a pile, just a separate pile, so I'm not mixing them up. And so here you go. This is a more significant chain going with your chain piecing. Woo! Okay. And I'm going to snip them apart a little bit just because I want to press them differently. So I'll press these guys and these guys the same way. And all right, now I'm going to do the same chain piecing process again using the stacks that were on the top of my sewing machine. Alrighty. So you can imagine if you were a brand new quilter, or if you're maybe making a quilt with a kiddo for the first time and you just want something fast and easy, this is definitely a really simple project, but it looks really complex, and also it just is a really fun one to play with color on because you can mix all the placements and it always looks good, which is tricky to find. Okay. We're getting there. Almost done.
Do you love chain piecing?
I don't mind chain piecing. Sometimes I get annoyed if I forget to like start and stop, or if the seams start to pop, but most of all it's kind of fun when you have like a really long stretch of chain and woohoo. Okay, whoa. Alright, let's clip this and press again. And so I'm just gonna, these guys go this way, these guys go this way. Spritz, spritz, spritz. And we're, okay. Whoa. Oh, it helps to have a little pair of snips. And I usually keep multiple pairs of notions around my house because I bury things under fabric and then I can't find them. Get a little annoyed when that happens. Never clean up, but you know, it's kind of a bother. All right, just a little bit more pressing. And again, just flipping this one over and pressing. And the reason that on this one I'm pressing again from the top is because this piece, to lay flat, it sometimes, since it's the bigger piece, like feels like it wants to fold under, but if it folds under then the seams don't nest right. So I'm just making sure that I didn't accidentally like press it where it was, you know, way not at the seam. And again, just going to, oh look at that, see, I messed up my seams. So see how my seams are going the same direction, so I have to repress this. I guess you don't have to, you could pin, but if you have all your seam bulk going the same direction, it's going to be really thick, and then when you go to quilt it, it's harder for your needle to go through more layers like that, and it can create like bumps in your top quilt if you have too much fabric. It makes it really thick. So, all right, let's try that again. Okay, lining up my seams so that they pretty much nest. And the nesting part, where you just like push the seams up next to each other, what that does is it makes it so that you're gonna have really crisp points And just repeating that again on the other side. They're all like huddling around the April the giraffe screen, and I'm just like,
She's still just walking around
what's
eating.
happening?
Don't
It's
worry.
okay, she's not having her baby. Okay. And now I have another cutie block. And I'm going to repeat that step again. So if you're making a full quilt out of this, you can see it's very repetitive. So once you get your groove going of how you like to piece, how you like to get your seams pressed a certain way, it just starts to flow very easily. And it goes really quick. Okay. Let's see. One more. All right. Seems to me like we're almost done.
Oh
So funny. Okay.
no. Should we ask people to post some puns below if they have any?
Oh, if you have sewing puns, bring them on. I love puns. Nicole thinks that they're not funny, but I think they're very funny. Also, dad jokes. Those are really funny.
So dad jokes and puns welcome, apparently.
Yes. All right. And I'm just going to press again at the back because I felt one of my seams being kind of weird. Okay. So, once you have made all your blocks and you're ready to assemble them, it's really easy. There's no sashing. You just line them up in the order that you want them to be in and you start sewing them together. If you are spelling out words, it's really important you be careful the direction is going the right way, that you don't accidentally, if you're trying to spell sew, don't write like SWE. That would be a bummer, and you get to spend some time with your seam ripper. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty easy. So we're gonna stitch this together here. I feel like for any quilting project, it's very important to have a seam ripper close by because everyone makes mistakes. I couldn't find my seam ripper, so when I needed to fix something, I had to take these little tiny scissors and cut through little tiny threads, and then try and not cut my fabric. That was fun. Okay. All right, and now we have our finished row done. Look at that, it says sew. That's so cute. All right, now we're going to press our seams and just attach it to our Friday so that everyone can know it's Sew Friday. We didn't spell it "it's" because we didn't have enough panels to get all the letters that we would have needed, so that's why it's just Sew Friday. All right, so now we're going to just line our pieces up, and then at this point I would pin, not a lot, just like where the blocks join together so that I know that I'm not doing something crazy. So like 2 pins on this, that's not too bad. Okay, so 1 pin there and another right here, and then we're just going to sew. All right. And when you get to your pins, make sure that you pause, take your pin out. You don't want to sew over pins. It's not great for the pins. It's not great for you. It's not great for your machine. Also, you could always break a pin or a needle and something could go flying out at you, so it's a hazard. You should definitely not sew over your pins. Okay. Alrighty. Almost done. Thankfully, this isn't the longest seam in the world. Sometimes we have some really long seams on this show, and it's just like sews forever. Okay. And with that, you gotta lift your foot. We have an almost finished product. We're just going to give it a quick press and make sure that our seams are laying nice and flat. Using again our flatter spray. I feel like maybe I use more flatter spray than you're supposed to, or that you need to, but I kind of like it. Also, it smells nicely, like it has a good scent, and there's several different options. So this one is yuzu. And then there's a pineapple one with art by Carolyn Friedlander, and there's a scentless version if you don't like smells. Our secret is, well, anyway. This is our So Friday quilt top. Not quite, well, so if you wanted to make it like big enough for a functional person to use, you could start writing more like "It's So Friday, every day of my life," and then you can add some borders or whatever you want.
You need quite a few panels to achieve that, but definitely a
yeah, so
possibility.
make sure that if you're going to make an alphabet message quilt, that you count out all your letters very carefully. Alphabet panels normally only have one of each letter, so make sure that you get as much as you need, but in the end you have a really cute little quilt. This is also a really good idea for if you have like a new baby coming, or a nephew or a niece, and you wanted to make them a quilt with their name on it. You could make them that so that they first learn about letters and how wonderful they are, then they learn about colors and how wonderful they are, and then they learn how to spell their own name, and it's all thanks to you and your quilting. So thank you again for joining us for It's So Friday. We've been working on Darlene Zimmerman's new collection. It's called
My
ABC book.
book.
My ABC book, and then this one is called like
My ABC
My ABCs. They're really, really sweet. 21 prints, comes in a fat quarter and a roll-up, and you can find them shipping to your shops this month. Thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful Friday and a great weekend.